Welcome everyone to the MedLifers podcast. Today, after 2 weeks, we're posting again. Actually, the plan was to post on or upload videos on weekly basis. Let's say on a Saturday or a Sunday. But in the past couple of months or so, things have been piling up. That's why I didn't have the time to do it as frequent as I would have liked to. Today we have a special guest with us. Mr. Saptarshi Pal.
Thanks for inviting.
Yep, my pleasure. I was begging to get you on the podcast for the longest.
Is that true? I think I harassed you to get me onto this podcast.
No, that's not true. It's just that I wasn't really motivated to do the podcast in the first place. So that's
Right.
why we weren't able to do it a few weeks ago.
Awesome. It's good to know that I am
Yeah.
welcome.
Well, I'm happy that you made it, even though he was 6 minutes late, which I don't appreciate.
We're in Germany, so yeah, we can't be 6
I've been
months.
living in Germany for about 5 years now, so I've been sort of Germanized, if that's a thing. But yeah, it's very nice that we are able to do it in the end. So okay, let's start with you. So how about you introduce? I could introduce you, but how about you introduce yourself just briefly, like who you are and where you're from.
All right. I mean, I would have said that you go ahead and introduce me, but well, I guess I'm a friend of Goda's, and we are working at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Biology. You already know him because you watch his podcast. I'm a PhD student there, but I do things which are different than biology, and I guess I'm a mathematician, and I work with game theory to understand human behavior.
We'll get to that in details a little bit later.
Yeah. And I guess I became close to Goda about a year ago when I moved to Keeley. He helped me move and find a place, and and since then. I guess it's been nice, and I don't know what else do you want me to tell you. I'm originally from India. I forgot the original question, which was to introduce myself.
Where from India?
I am from Kolkata. It's, I believe, the third largest city in India.
So what is the language spoken there?
The language spoken there is Bengali, which also happens to be the main language of the country Bangladesh, if you know, and it's also very close to Bangladesh. But I speak Bengali, but I also fluently speak Hindi and English. And I grew up there, and I did my bachelor's there, and believe it or not, I was an engineer. That's what I did my bachelor's in, and then I moved to Canada to do my master's in
We'll
math.
get to that.
I don't know how long this introduction is supposed to be.
This is good. Okay, but
Alright,
actually, I
thanks.
was curious because I'm very fascinated about India, anyways. So I don't know much about India, but like I've been watching this show on Netflix, the Indian matchmaking, which
Okay.
is quite interesting, I would say.
Alright.
But during the show, then you'd hear people wanting partners like, okay, I want a Sanhili or a Punjabi or a Bengali or whatever. So what is the difference between this and that? And is it the language? Is it the air, like the geographical location? There's some sort of different ethnicity there, or what's happening?
Yeah. I mean, I've been saying this to a lot of friends recently, and I think this is very true. To all the people who live in Europe, the way I see India is that India is basically the European Union, but forced to be one country. We are all speaking very different languages, spread across geographically, but economically we are kind of the same. We share a unified culture. We have like a shared history, and we are also related very closely. If you want to look at it that way, but there are very significant differences between these cultures in terms of food, in terms of languages, in terms of everything else basically. And if you look very microscopically, they are very different, but if you zoom out, they're all kind of the same. And yes, I mean, going back to your marriage dating show about India,
I was just
there is definitely a inclination to marry within cultures. I mean, it is true that people go outside boundaries these days, but earlier it used to be the thing that it was not so common.
But what was kind of shocking to me was it's not only the people who are living in India that have these kind of preferences, but also the people who actually were born and raised in, let's say, the USA. they still have these preferences when it comes to that. So let's say a girl or a guy from a Punjabi family, in their preference, we want a Punjabi. You know,
Yeah.
we want, which is I found a bit crazy, because you don't,
Yeah.
you'd think that people living in other countries, even then, they would be, not just more open to having partners from a different type of place in their own country, original country, because you would expect that they are actually open to other actually countries as well.
Yeah, I guess what the people are searching there is they want a familiarity with how they grew up, and they want this familiarity in their partners. I mean, unless they grew up in the US, then that's a really strange thing. I don't really understand why you would have this preference. Maybe your parents are kind of, I don't know, asking you to marry a Punjabi girl because they grew up in India. But basically, I think what's happening here is they want this cultural connect. They share this. They want to share their life with someone who grew up in a similar environment, spoke the same language, shared the same context, and maybe that's kind of like the origin of all of these preferences.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can understand the point that people would like to find someone with whom they would share so many things, Okay, so back to you.
That was a detour.
So we know your background now. So back to your education. So where did you do your bachelor's again?
In Kolkata, yeah.
In the same city you were.
Yeah, in the same city. I used to live with my parents when I was doing my bachelor's. I took the bus to college at same city. Yeah, and then I was there for 4 years. And
what was the major?
It was in engineering, in electrical engineering.
Okay, that's very interesting because we are in a graduate school of evolutionary biology, so you will probably need to take a step by step to that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is also very interesting because if you go to India and if you see what parents want their kids to be and what kids actually want, it's just that there is a not huge of demand for basic sciences and also not a desire to study it, and that kind of upsets me now because I am in basic science, and there is a huge demand for being an engineer or a doctor.
Yeah,
and that's because it's
the stereotype.
Yeah, it's the stereotype, and it pays a lot, and it's very normal for people to want that, I think, and given the conditions, of course. And yeah, I mean, back then I was just doing what I felt was right, and then I studied engineering. I mean, I loved everything I learned there. It was a great university, and I also loved all the fascinating little things, but I realized during my bachelor's that I liked the mathematical or the analytical part of all of this more than the actual application. And I started doing some other projects which were not related to engineering at all, and then I slowly decided that maybe during my master's I completely switched to math. And I was applying to schools outside of India, and I found that to transition directly from engineering background to something that I would really want to do, which is mathematical biology, it would be hard without a master's. So I was obviously looking at master's programs.
Where did you go abroad?
I
know, but
I went to Canada. I was living in
the two people.
The two people, actually one, because I am the other person who.
Dude, I have around 300 views for the other.
Okay. Well,
for the other episode. It's crazy. But
growing.
You know, it's the secret. I think 2 days, 2 days after I posted the episode on YouTube, and I usually share it on Instagram. Just reels and the link to the YouTube, to the full version. But then all of a sudden I just decided to post it on Facebook. Okay. And then I posted it on Facebook, and the thumbnails was me doing that. You know what I mean? So I think people just saw my picture, regardless whether they can actually speak English or not. They just clicked. And I just got more views, but the average watch duration is not that long. But I'll take it, man.
I'll take it. Any initiative grows like that, and I admire you for keeping up and doing your work. And I'm sure this will become a success one day.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. So you went to Canada?
Yes, I went to Canada. I was living in a city called Ontario, studying at the University of Waterloo. The city called Ontario. That's stupid. I was living in Ontario in a city called Waterloo. I was in the University of Waterloo, and I was doing my master's in applied math, mostly working with dynamical system models.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, during those times when I was doing my masters, I slowly got introduced to these evolutionary models, which I found amazing, and thought it would be a great thing. And since kind of my masters involved modeling human behavior, it was still a bit applied, but I found the theoretical aspects of it even more fascinating. So yeah, I ended up here where.
So it kind of makes sense now why you are.
It's a very long
here.
journey and a
Yeah,
very twisted one. So
but back to the point, I actually can relate to the thing with your parents wanting you to be whether like either a doctor, or an engineer, because I mean from a parent perspective, they want you to be secure in life, and these type of jobs to them are the ones that will bring you security, right? Financial security and stability. So that is actually the same in Egypt, and fun fact, actually, I come from a family that has a kind of a medicine background. Most of my cousins are doctors. A couple of my uncles are, and even I was striving to be a dentist, but I didn't get enough grades to qualify. And then my dad suggested to study science, and back then everybody's like, you're going to study science. What would you do with that? What are you gonna actually? What's the job? What's the job description then in the future? It's like, where would you work? Blah, blah. And I remember one day, I think I was in my first or second year already, and I was walking in our old village. We moved from that place many years ago, but I was going to visit some old friends and some old relatives, and a random guy in the street. I don't necessarily know the name of the guy, but just we know each other by just appearance, you know. So he was, okay, what are you studying? I was like, yeah, I'm studying science. I was like, oh, cool, religious sciences. I was like, no. I just gave up on the discussion. I was just like, yes, religious sciences. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you like what you do, then you will.
Yeah. I mean, coming back to the parents, I think that the transition phase is very difficult for us as people who are choosing this thing against their wishes. I wouldn't say against their wishes, but something they are not sure about. But in a couple of years, when we do enjoy what we are doing, and they also kind of see that we kind of getting the security, they really like the fact that we went our ways, right? Don't you feel the same? I mean,
yeah, of course.
It
it brings them actually to my experience. It makes them proud. Actually.
Yeah, totally. And it just happened that they did not know that this was a possibility.
Yeah.
And I would say that. Yeah.
Well, first of all, it's just the lack of exposure. You didn't see people doing that and actually succeeding.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
that is why. So you lived in Canada for how long?
For a little bit more than 2 years.
Okay, forgive me with the geography thing, but Ontario, this is an English-speaking part.
Yes, I mean, it's an English-speaking part, but people grow up there also learning French, but it's predominantly.
But how's life there in general?
Life is pretty good.
Was it how different it was from living in India or growing up in India, and how was the social life? Or how was it an easy or difficult transition?
Yeah, so I mean, living in Canada was the first time I was living outside of India. So the first couple of months, I was just a new person in a new land, and I had to learn all of these new things, living by myself.
Yeah.
And I think that a country like Canada is not the best place to start your life outside of India. You know what I mean? In a long run, I mean, if you get a position there, you live there, it's a fantastic place. But I mean, as a graduate student, you end up going there in the month of September, and in a couple of months, the winter hits, and it's just minus 20 degrees Celsius.
And if you've never seen that in your life,
yeah, I've never seen that in my life. And I mean, I had good coats and everything was fine, but it was snowy, and it's not like Germany where you have good public transport, so you always have to be on time to get the bus. If you don't catch it, it's not 10 minutes away. The next bus is like half an hour away.
Okay.
And then doing groceries was hard because grocery store was far away, and then you had to So there was a bit of struggle in the beginning, but I kind of eased into it, like everybody does. And I would say the life is good, but I think perhaps I didn't appreciate it as much because I was being paid like a master's student, right? And I think if I was being paid a little bit more, like if I
Yeah,
were
but
a
hey,
PhD
as
student,
if you're a master's student here, you don't get paid.
yeah,
So
but
this
in
is- this
Canada
is-
you do like in
But
the
this is good.
yeah, in the program I was like I was paid as a research assistant, and in some semesters I had to like teach, so I got paid through that. But it was comfortable, and I think it was a very different life than what it was either in India or over here.
We'll come to that and okay. So did you have good relationships there in terms of colleagues, friends? Did you make friends there?
Yes, I did. I did make friends there, and I lived with my roommates, so which I don't do now. I lived with 3 other people in a house, and we all rented it, and that was fantastic. We used to cook together, and we used to like chat late till night. That was fantastic. But I would say that I was friends with my colleagues, but I didn't know much about their lives. Like it wasn't like I was hitting them up on weekends to go
How
to-
international was it?
It was quite international.
So it's not just Canadians.
No, it wasn't. Although there were many Canadians,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
but it wasn't. We had people from the UK, from Spain, from everywhere basically. Yeah, it was quite international.
Well, that sounds that sounds pretty good. So it was 2 years you said?
Yes, 2 years. Yeah.
And okay, so 2 years living in Ontario.
That's right.
So then you decided to do a PhD.
That's right.
So what were the options that you had? Obviously, you came here to northern Germany to do the PhD. So did you have it's not like but like what things or what other plans did you have in mind other probably coming to Germany?
Yeah. So this was not completely unsolicited, because when I was doing my bachelor's in India, I came for internship from India to a Max Planck in India, to Germany, and it was in Göttingen, and I worked there for 3 months. So I already had some idea
It's a beautiful
about
city.
yeah, it's fantastic. I love it. I already had some experience working with the Max Planck, and in my opinion, the experience that I had back then, it was one of the fantastic ways of doing research. Like it's like an independent institution. It pays PhD and postdocs fairly, and there's like a certain amount of independence that comes from it not being part of any university.
Yeah.
And I found all of that great. So it was always in the back of my mind that I might want to come back to a Max Planck to do a PhD. But while I was applying from Canada, I did also consider universities in Canada and in the US. But out of all of the options that I had, I thought it would be best to move to Germany. Yeah.
That is. Yeah, but I didn't know that actually you did an internship in Göttingen. Say, you always.
Yeah,
you
it was
always
in
back.
2017. It was in 2017 for 3 months. I think.
So you've been living abroad for how many years now?
Let's see. So I moved out in 2018, and now it's 2000. So it's
Almost 5 years as well.
4.5 years. Yeah, 5 years in September. Yeah.
And how or actually did that shape you or your personality in a way differently than you actually were before?
And that's a very difficult question, and I think it's maybe
let's start with this. What do you recommend to other people who hadn't actually lived abroad? Would you recommend that they actually should live abroad at some point in their lives?
So I think there are 2 things here which one should separate. One is living abroad, and one is living by yourself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily, like the skills that I gained, it doesn't necessarily have to do with living abroad, but rather by living by myself. But one thing that does come with living abroad, especially with people that have the same origin as you and me,
Yeah.
I don't know if you share it, is that there was this significant jump financially.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be paid this much if I was doing my PhD in India.
Yeah.
And therefore my options in life in general branched out pretty fast. And this may sound strange, but I can maybe elucidate. But I think once you have that leverage financially, you can explore other parts of your personality well, and you can grow as a person, you know. Because our survival instincts force us to think
But also
in terms of
getting
sustenance.
exposed to so many cultures.
Exactly. Yeah. That's as well. That's the second point.
I remember in my masters we were 18 students from 11. So we had 8 Germans and then 10 students, including me, from 10 different places. So it's 11 nationalities in total, and that was, for me, this was just crazy because. Yeah, I mean, living in Egypt, I was barely exposed to people that aren't from the country, and coming here, obviously, now I'm the foreigner, right? And being exposed to those so many cultures was probably the best thing I've ever experienced in my life. You know, you grow on it, like you. In ways you would have never imagined.
I completely agree. Agree. The best part of this life is to meet people from all cultures.
Yeah,
and just to realize that even though everybody is unique, they're all the same, and they all have the same interests and goals, which is often science. And it was fantastic. Like, I mean, before moving out, I just had an idea of what a person from say, France would be like, and that's why what a person from the US would be like. And then I got to know all of them very closely, and that was the best part.
That sounds good. So then you came to Germany almost, let's say, almost 2.5 years ago now, about. So
that's correct.
Was it September 2020?
That's correct. September 2020, that was in the middle of COVID, and the first wave had just gone down.
Yep.
The first wave had just gone down, and traveling was like a little bit less restrictive, and then I flew.
It was kind of allowed again because at some point there was no air travel.
Exactly.
At all.
Then I was lucky to get this flight from Toronto to Hamburg, and then in 2020 I moved here, and I was blessed to be part of the Max Planck here, which changed my life even more.
And how was it for you, or let's say the first few days or the first few weeks living in Germany? How was it? How different was it from living in Canada? Let's say.
I mean, it was a huge culture shock. Like, this sounds.
How about the language, no?
Yeah, and I mean the language especially, but I mean I wasn't really surprised by it. I was expecting that I would be facing trouble because I had this experience from 2017, and I knew that when I go to Aldi or when I go to Rewe, I'm going to see things that I don't understand. And when I go to make my bank account, when I go to do this and that, I would be facing trouble. I was anticipating that.
Yeah.
But the people in Max Planck, the secretaries and everything who work there, who assist you to do all of this stuff, they were very helpful. And I also had a very surprisingly fast learning curve in understanding German. So
that's good.
So yeah, I mean, also I in general, like personally, I felt society was much better here in Germany than in Canada. So I felt more comfortable. I could use public transport everywhere, and and I started going to the doctor, which I couldn't in Canada because it was too expensive for a very specific personal thing. But everything was.
Like, I remember, because coming to Germany is probably the first time for me to live abroad, or maybe, to be quite precise, to live in a non-Arabic speaking country. Yeah. So coming here, I still remember the first time I went to the supermarket. Dude, I was lost. I was. It's not that I didn't know what's up. It's just I didn't understand what I'm seeing. You know what I mean? Like, let's say if I don't eat a specific type of meat or something like that, and I'm like, is this chicken? You know what I mean?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
When I first I was getting it, I was searching for chicken everywhere.
Yes.
Because in India, you can't eat. Beef, and it's not very readily available. And with pork too, it's not readily available. So all you eat as a meat is chicken, and I was looking for chicken everywhere.
It was funny.
And it is also back then. I think Google had this new release in their app of Translate, where you could point the thing with your camera.
Yeah.
It was around that time, so I was
translates it instantly.
Exactly, and I was saved by that. So
that was good.
Supermarket experiences are great.
Yeah. It's crazy. And how would you rate the social life here? Compared to Canada?
I would say it's significantly better. Like
Significantly better
yeah,
here,
yeah,
even though with the
definitely.
language barrier and
Yeah,
stuff like.
and
Or is it because we live kind of in a very international sort of environment, but not environment like I don't know, like yeah, we live in an international kind of environment as well, right? Like most of our friends or colleagues are actually people with an international background as well. Like they are not necessarily from Germany, right?
That's right, but even if that's true, like all the German friends we have, they're also very welcoming and nice. I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, but it's not that.
I've had variable experiences.
Okay, I won't speak to that, but I mean, in my experience, everybody here from Germany or not, they are very welcoming. But I mean, of course, my sample of experience from Ontario and Germany is not sufficient to say where social life is better, but I can obviously extrapolate and say that definitely social life here is better. And I think it just probably is because life here is not so go get your own thing kind of, you know, like you don't need you don't need a car to survive.
Yeah.
You don't need your own
True.
house to survive. You don't need your own backyard. I don't know, these kind of things. The things are naturally way more social.
Like
and
like for needing a car or public transportation, such things. I know that people complain a lot about the Deutsche Bahn and about the delays and stuff like
That's
that.
right.
But dude, in my country we don't have the concept of public transport.
That's right.
So for me, I mean, even it's 5, 10, 20 minutes late, I think as long as I'm going to be there in time or just before time, it's okay. I don't whine about it.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Like, look at behind you on this F boy thingy. I hope it's not caught in camera.
Yeah.
This is crazy. It's whatever. Anyways.
You mean this show?
Yeah, no, it's because this is YouTube, right?
Okay.
And these are recommended videos, but
So they're recommending this to you because you watched it?
because I watched that guy.
Okay.
He reacts sometimes to some of these
Okay.
messed up dating shows. Anyways.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So now you work in the Max Planck as a doctoral in the Max Planck they like to call us doctoral researchers.
Yeah.
But like you work in the Max Planck as a PhD student.
That's right. Yeah.
Anyways,
we are PhD students. Yeah.
In your face.
Yeah.
Anyways, so as a PhD student and okay, let's assume, and this is actually true, I'm one of the public now and I don't understand a shit about what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me what you do in at work or in your research in just like the simplest way possible.
All right. So what we are interested is in behavior, and the way behavior can be modeled is through strategic interactions. And what that means is in a world where your outcomes don't only matter by what you do, but what rather the population does. These kind of settings can be modeled with math. Mm-hmm. And one very specific field of math which tries to do all of this in a very sophisticated way is called game theory. And this field tries to understand feedbacks between populations and the environment. Mm-hmm. And then it tries to give you answers about which environments give rise to which kind of behaviors, and vice versa. So it kind of studies the interactions between environments and behaviors in a very neat way, I believe. And that's what we are trying to do. That not we, but rather game theory is trying to do. But what we do in our lab, which is by the way called the Research Group of Dynamics of Social Behavior, what we try to do is mostly study cooperation. So in biology, cooperation is a very well-studied thing. People have been studying it for like 60, 70 years across species, in ants, bees, apes, and all the way to mammals and humans. And what we try to understand is specifically human cooperation, and what are the instances in which cooperation between humans are more likely than the others. Mm-hmm. And a lot of our group members work with theoretical models like I do. but there are group members who also perform behavioral experiments, and which behavioral experiments are like motivated
Oh, I know
from
that person.
you know that person. Yeah, we helped her move, and
That was terrible, Charlotte. That was terrible.
Anyway,
She should watch this video. Make
yeah,
sure
I will forward it to her.
Okay.
But you should. Yeah, so like we do behavioral experiments which are like inspired from the fields of economics and psychology. They do kind of these experiments there to test some hypotheses that we have from theory. So yeah, so it's a pretty broad field. That's what we kind of trying to do with game theory and cooperation.
Nice.
I hope that was a succinct summary.
It was. Yeah, it's good. It's good. So now after living and doing research in Canada and doing research in Germany right now, and obviously your upbringing in India, and this is a question I get a lot. Do you think you will have a career in India at all, or what also do you see yourself then going forward with your career?
Yeah.
Continuing in Germany, going back to Canada, maybe other country?
Yeah, I mean, to answer your first question, whether it's a possibility to go back to India,
Retired?
honestly speaking, I don't think it's a chance, because the kind of research that I do, if India is the way it is right now, there is very limited funding for all of that, and there's not much appreciation. The community is small, so it's really hard for me to go back
also
there.
like the what comes in return, so let's say income, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not comparable, is it?
Yeah, it's not comparable at all. And so I have ruled out in my mind, like you said, maybe when I'm retired I'll go back there.
Yeah, right.
But
I want to get buried in India. Whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, where I want to go on from now, I mean, I don't think so much. Sometimes I do in the long run, but maybe the next goal is to find a postdoc in a year. And as far as it looks, I think I would try to get somewhere in Europe, because I like the kind of community they have here in this field, and I've made some connections over the past few years, and I would like to remain in this community.
So you want to stay in research?
Yes, I do want to stay in academia at least for a little while, and
so this is not a long-term thingy.
I mean,
just for a little while, and then
no. I mean, the plan is to stay for a long time. The plan is to eventually become a professor. At some point, and then have my own lab, everything. But I can't guarantee that, right? Like,
yeah, right.
That's also I'll try my best, but that's the plan.
But hey, if you stay in Germany for a little bit longer, you might be eligible for the citizenship if you want it at some point.
That is correct. But
pros and cons. It's a pro for sure.
It is a pro. Sure. It is a pro. But I think the fact that they have this, like, if they want to implement this new rule, in order to help.
I don't think it would affect us anyways, because you're in your third year here. You don't have to go to that whatever language level that they want, because at the end of the day, it's highly likely that you stay here for about 5 years anyways. Then it's just a B1 level, and that's all what you need.
No, I'm not. I was actually going to say a different point. I was going to say that if they do want to implement this citizenship rule that you're mentioning, they must also try to do something with this 12-year rule.
Yeah, right.
Because that really doesn't help. Because I know many great researchers in our institute, and I mean also outside, who are amazing, but they face this problem that within after the 12 years,
you have to drop your...
they don't get any permanent position or something that is not third-party funding. And if they really want to encourage academics to stay and invest in Germany, they should probably relax this a little bit.
I mean, they are putting forward laws, now we're discussing it now in the parliament and stuff, that they would allow dual citizenships for non-EU...
Yeah. But coming from India, my country in India doesn't
allow you to.
Yeah. So if
crap.
India doesn't allow me to have.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So if I have to ever be a citizen of any other country, I would have to give up my Indian citizenship.
So they allow giving up the Indian citizenship, but they don't allow dual citizenship.
No, yeah.
See, there are some countries like Costa Rica, Algeria, for example. Those countries, you cannot drop it.
Yeah,
it's not an option.
That's crazy.
Then you can get the let's say the German one without dropping that one. Okay. So actually, countries should enforce it in a way that okay, you cannot drop it. It's not even an option,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Rather than like, okay, we don't allow duals. I mean, come on, you're not helping, but like, yeah. Anyways, okay. So staying in research. Okay, good luck. It's
I would need all the luck.
I think you can do it. I think you can do it.
All right, thanks.
So catching up with some of the stuff last week, I think I don't know how we're doing with time already, but I think it's much. I think this episode is a little bit longer than what I used to do, but good. It's good. Maybe the average duration watch time will be a little bit
longer. Yeah.
Hopefully. So, have you been following the Premier League recently?
Not
especially in the past week.
Not very closely, but I did wanted to text you the other day saying Arsenal
lost.
You didn't.
It's good that you didn't because
but then Arsenal won again, right? They won 4-2 against Crystal Palace.
Aston Villa.
Aston Villa, yeah. And then they lost to who?
To Man City.
To Man City, exactly. And that really sucked, yeah. And I mean, it's not like I'm an Arsenal supporter, but I know you are, and I don't know how it hurts their chances.
No, it's you know what, I actually expected us to lose such game, but the issue was the 2 games prior, because we lost away at Everton, which we shouldn't do, and then we had a home game against and then we had a home game against Brighton, and we were 1-0 up.
Yeah.
And then they scored a goal, I think, in the 80-something minute.
Yeah.
And that goal was an offside. And using this video assistant referee thing, they were looking at an incident in the beginning of the play.
Yeah.
There was like a potential foul.
Yeah.
And then they ignored that there was actually the last piece of the play was actually offside.
Oh, no.
So they forgot to draw the lines. They focused on that incident, and and then you drew 1-1. You missed 2 points for nothing. Yeah. You know that guy. His name is Lee Mason, the video assistant referee, the one who was in charge. He was fired
for this incident.
because they use what I don't know what's the name of the institution, but the people who are responsible for video assistant refereeing, they issued an apology.
Oh, wow.
They issued an official apology, and Lee Mason, I don't know if he got fired or he announced retirement, so he's not involved anymore.
Wow, that's
because you're talking about 2 points that actually could decide the league in the end.
That is right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But and then after that, we had Man City at home. It was actually a game that was postponed from before the World Cup.
Yeah.
And we lost that game. I think we played well, but what was nice yesterday is that we won at the 94, because it was 1-0 to Aston Villa, and then 1-1, and then 2-1 Aston Villa, and then 2-2, and then we got the third goal in 94th minute.
Yeah.
And that was crazy. And then Man City went to Nottingham Forest, and it was 1-1. So we're back at the top of the league with 1 game in hand. So that was it's pretty good.
Okay, I didn't know the Man City game yesterday, and then it's fine. I mean,
So the title race is on.
The title race is on.
It's on.
Awesome. I'm not an Arsenal supporter, neither a Man City supporter. But I would definitely want Arsenal to win this season because they've been deserving it.
I mean, I'm not emotionally involved as I used to be, because when I was younger, it could have screwed up my entire week, maybe month. But now it's a little bit. I just in the past couple of games, I stay silent. I swear to God, I stay silent, and all of a sudden, just one extra thing happens, because things are piling up, At the end of the day, I just scream with something, and then I was like, "Why did I do that?" You know what I mean? It's just because it's like to the cap.
I know. I've seen 2 football games with you, and I have already seen that.
But it was a. It's fun. It's fun, man.
It is.
Are you familiar with martial arts at all? Because there was a really, really huge event last week. There was UFC 284.
Yeah.
There was the lightweight championship in Australia between the featherweight champion, which is the 145 pound.
Yeah.
But he went up to an upper weight class, 155, which is the lightweight, to challenge to be a double champion.
All right.
You know. and he lost. Thank God. He was.
Who is this person?
So the Australian guy that was striving to be a double champ, his name is Alexander Volkanovski, and actually he on the list they have a list called pound for pound. It exists also in boxing, but the pound for pound it assumes that if everybody is in the same weight class, who was more well-rounded, who has the better skills, whatever. So it doesn't matter if you're a featherweight or a heavyweight or whatever. So he was actually the number one pound for pound, and the lightweight champion Islam Makhachev from Dagestan, Russia, is the number 2 pound for pound. And then
this was like a really important match.
Yeah, exactly. So he went up a weight class in the pursuit of this double
championship. Yeah.
And the guy from Russia went to Australia to fight him there in Perth, Australia, and he defended it. He won, but there was so much controversy afterwards. Like people say, he won because it's a 5-round type of thing, 5-minute rounds. I scored it and I watched it actually back a couple of other times, and I still scored it actually 4-1 to 4 rounds to 1. I mean, many people scored it 3 rounds to 2, but the audacity for some people to score 3 rounds to 2 to the Australian champion is.
But what was the final score?
So you have 3 judges that scored a card. Yeah. So 2 of them scored it. So it was a unanimous decision anyway. Yeah. So 2 of them scored it 3-2. Yeah. To the lightweight. The Russian, and 1 scored it 4-1. So they score it. Let's say it's each round is scored like boxing. It's like a 10-point thingy. Yeah, now I get it. So if you win the round, it's a 10-9, right? So in the end, it was scored 48-47, 48-47, 49-46. Okay, it was. But I was very happy. But the issue with these things sometimes is the timing, because we live here in Europe, and it's prime Eastern time in the US, so the main card starts probably at 5 in the morning. So the event starts midnight and the main card's 5. So what I do is that I sleep and I set an alarm to some of the fights that I want to watch, unless like I'm on probably 5 cups of coffee or something like that and I want to watch the entire card.
And you also did the same with the Australian Open, right?
So the Australian Open, luckily the final started at I think 9 in the morning.
Oh, because it's not in Perth; it's in Melbourne, I think.
It's in Melbourne.
So it's in like one time zone away.
It's I think it's a different time zone.
Yeah, it's a different time.
But yeah, 9 in the morning here is no. You see, so the thing is, so the fight was in Australia. It was Sunday. So it was Saturday night in the US, and it was Sunday morning in Australia. So they still wanted to do it prime US time. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So people fought in the morning, which actually they are not used to. Yeah. But yeah, it was a really good one actually. Okay, I told you we're going to talk about, this is the last thing we'll talk about. It's The Last of Us. Yeah. So I told you we're going to talk about this a little bit. So you told me you watched...
I watched like almost an episode.
Yeah, but so you know what the plot.
Yeah, I know the plot. I know what's like kind of going on, and I know. I mean, don't give me any spoilers. I will come back to it. I just it just happened that I got distracted by this other HBO show, and I kept watching that. But I will come back to the.
What do you think of the first scene where you have
the first scene scientists? Is fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you talked about it in one of your earlier podcasts. It was nice, and I mean, I've never thought about fungi is growing inside humans like that because of adaptations to climate change. Yeah. But it was a quite pulling scene, and I mean.
Have you played the game?
No, I'm not a video game player. I haven't played the game, but like I mean, honestly speaking, like the first episode of Last of Us, I was really enjoying it in the part which was when the thing was starting to happen in 2003, I think, and. I was really excited and it was so thrilling, but then they shifted forward and the show kind of became slow.
In the same episode.
In the same episode, yeah, and then it kind of like dropped my energy a little bit, but it came back up very fast. So now, I mean,
you should continue.
I think I'm hearing good things about it, so I will definitely watch it.
But you've seen other. Type of zombie post-apocalyptic.
Yes, but yes, I mean I have seen the
I don't know, The Walking Dead, maybe something.
Some seasons of Walking Dead. I never finished it, but I have watched. Have you watched this movie from Korea called Train to Busan?
No.
You should watch it. It's a zombie movie.
Just send me the name.
It's one of the greatest like very well known Korean movie. It's about a zombie outbreak inside a train which is going to Busan, Korea. I think the train is leaving from Seoul and it's going to Busan, and it's so good. It has this emotional like side to it. It's a story about father and daughter, and it's very good. You should watch it. And I mean, and I think I also watched this. What's it called? The Ice Cream Trilogy from the UK.
No idea either.
I guess Hot Fuzz is one of the movies. Do you know Simon Pegg? He used to be one of the actors in the Mission Impossible series. Like he used to be the sidekick of Tom Cruise. He is in one of those movies, and yeah, those movies are really good. They're zombies, but kind of like comedic and also,
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, what I've watched some of these, not the ones that you mentioned, but some other stuff. I don't know, World War Z. Or,
World War Z too. Yeah, exactly. World War Z is very good,
or The Walking Dead, or I think I watched some of Resident Evil as well. But I think what comes to mind when it comes to these things is the interactions or the dynamics after such tragedy, where your actually main enemy is not the dead themselves; it's other humans.
Yeah, exactly.
So these interactions, these dynamics are what actually were actually very appealing, because probably, and this is true.
Yeah.
We can't. We after some of these things that would happen, people go back to the very primal instincts that they have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's very appealing in that sense. I mean, I like anything that goes back to that shows the worst of us, basically.
I see.
Yeah, but I mean, The Last of Us. There are 5 episodes out already, and I think the 6th is out this Sunday. So today, I watched already the 5 episodes, and I'm planning to watch the 6th one. They are not paying me or anything, but go watch that. It's a really good show.
All right, I will watch it now. I will binge it.
Cool. So this
Awesome.
podcast now came to an end. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you so much.
I forgive you for the 6 minutes.
No, thanks for inviting me. It was an amazing experience. When I started it, it kind of felt strange with the light and everything.
It's just.
But I dived into it.
It was strange for me too.
Yeah.
So good. Thank you, Saptarshi.
All right.
Yeah. See you, buddy.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah. That was good.
That was good.
Yeah. I hope it's recorded.